too. Elsewhere, further south and east, it should remain relatively dry, but cloud will thicken through the night. That does mean, though, it's going to be a mild night, much milder than it has been lately. Temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees to start the day. But more in the way of rain to come on Tuesday, particularly across northwestern areas of England. Now, once that weather front pushes south through Scotland, we'll see showers push in from the west. Some of these could be quite heavy, very blustery, and they bring a risk of hail as well as hill snow. So a very different feel into tomorrow. The rain will start to intensify through Tuesday morning across western areas of northern England into Wales as well. But for many of us, it will be a dry and dull start to the day across England and Wales. You can see that rain starting to intensify across Northern Ireland, northwestern England, as well as North Wales through Tuesday lunchtime. Here it will linger through much of the day, bringing a risk of some localised flooding issues. Further rain to come across parts of Scotland too. It should remain dry across the far south and east, but a breezier and cooler day to come here with less in the way of sunshine. And then that more unsettled, colder weather will be more widely felt into Wednesday. For many of us, we could see snow flurries across the high ground. Some brisk northerly winds will bring a very different feel to the weather. It's going to feel very chilly for Wednesday into Thursday. However, as I mentioned, it does look like the drier weather and slightly warmer weather will return by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this latest 2026 model comes fully loaded with everything you'd expect. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country, whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Nein, keinen ist du, no. So der keinen ist du, kriegst du Flagge, du, vier ambulances Flagge.
Another anti-Semitic terror attack rocks London.
Are you a supporter of ISIS?
Do you want to answer? Yes.
How many more incidents before people wake up?
Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and it's really important that we all stand together at a moment like this.
Hollow words from a hollow Prime Minister. In other news... Is Britain really in range of Iranian missiles, and is it true that we don't have any defences? Plus... Labour aren't telling you the truth about their latest plans to deport thousands of illegals, and parents go to court to stop a school letting boys identify as girls and use female spaces. Plus...
The TV industry here is something I love and had admired for a long time and have been trying to get into for a very long time.
Meet the new Director General of the BBC. Is he just another posh left-winger with luxury beliefs? And on my panel tonight, we have got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, Reform UK member and ex-Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. And madness today at New York's airport. And I believe we can ask you, what is going on here? What do you think you're looking at there? Any ideas? Well, I'll tell you shortly. So get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is Labour lying about deportations? Next.
Good evening, I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom at 9:02. The Prime Minister has warned the war in the Middle East could go on for some time and that the government is looking at targeted support to help with rising energy bills. Sir Keir Starmer has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting this evening to discuss the economic impact of the conflict here in the UK. Meanwhile, the Foreign Office has summoned Iran's ambassador to the UK over what it calls reckless and destabilising attacks in Britain and overseas. And the Defence Secretary, John Healey, has confirmed that warship HMS Dragon has arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean almost 3 weeks after its deployment was first announced.
We have more jets in the region than at any time in the last 15 years. And I can confirm that HMS Dragon has arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean and tonight begins operational integration into Cyprus's defence. I totally condemn Iran's reckless attacks. Iran must stop. It must de-escalate. We want to see this war end now.
It's after Donald Trump postponed planned US strikes on Iranian power plants after what he called very productive talks on ending the war. The US president says military action will be paused for 5 days while discussions aimed at a complete resolution continue. But Iran claims Trump has backed down following its threats to target energy infrastructure across the Gulf and has denied talks have taken place. In other news, the Prime Minister has condemned what he calls a deeply shocking anti-Semitic arson attack in North London. 4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish community charity in Golders Green were set alight and loud explosions were heard as gas cylinders ignited. Counter-terror police are leading the investigation, which is being treated as a hate crime. More than 250 people have attended a rally against anti-Semitism in the area this evening. GB News can reveal almost 1,000 migrants in 17 small boats have crossed the English Channel to the UK in just 6 days. It's after 270 migrants made the journey today. Maritime security forces had warned of a surge in crossings with the improvement in weather conditions this week. Over 4,000 have made the journey so far this year. And the UK government is preparing to hand France a further £500 million to help tackle the crisis, as the current deal is due to expire next week. And in New York, a plane has crashed into a fire engine, killing both pilots and injuring dozens of passengers. The Air Canada plane was carrying 72 people, and more than 40 of them have been taken to hospital. LaGuardia's airport has been closed with all flights cancelled since. It comes amid a chronic shortage of air traffic controllers due to a partial US government shutdown, which has led to delays and heightened safety concerns at airports across the country. Those are your latest headlines. Let's get back to Patrick.
Good evening. More on this devastating attack in Golders Green a little bit later on in the show. But for now, you are not being told the full truth about Shabana Mahmood's plans to deport a load of illegal migrants before they can appeal. Labour wants you to believe that the Home Secretary will deport thousands of illegals after they've had their cases rejected, which means that they'd only be able to appeal once they get back to wherever it is they've come from. But the truth is, they can only be deported to safe countries. Now, these include places like India, Brazil, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Albania and Ukraine and EU nations. So not Afghanistan, Sudan, Eritrea, Iran or, remarkably, Pakistan. Look, any deportations of illegals is welcome, but her plan doesn't do much to tackle the actual problem. We're expecting a surge in channel crossings in the coming weeks and months. You just heard then that we had nearly 1,000 today. And if you look at this chart, more illegals have already arrived under Keir Starmer than any other recent Prime Minister. And Britain is very much still there for the taking. Yesterday, it was revealed that a man from Cameroon arrived on a temporary visa for the 2021 UN Climate Summit in Glasgow. He then claimed he was gay and was granted refugee status. Now, to everyone's surprise, it turns out he has a wife and son in Cameroon. Look, even if he is really gay, why is this our problem? Do we have to take every single gay person from all over the world where they might face persecution? I mean, come on. I think Shabana Mahmood telling us that she's going to deport thousands of people before they have a right to appeal is just the latest attempt at gaslighting, like we're seeing from Labour's Liverpool Council. They've launched a Mythbuster page to try to tell everyone that we shouldn't be saying that migrants from certain backgrounds are more likely to commit violence against women. They say suggesting that certain backgrounds make people more likely to commit violence is not supported by evidence and reinforces harmful stereotypes. The strongest predictor of violence against women and girls is not nationality or culture, but gender, with men making up the majority of perpetrators worldwide, regardless of where they come from. All right, OK, it's nice to know that gender exists now, though, isn't it? Well, Iraq is considering lowering the age of consent for girls to 9 years old. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have legalised husbands beating their wives. They got rid of the age of consent. Women aren't allowed to speak loudly in public or go to school. I mean, I could go on there. Last year, analysis by the Centre for Migration Control found that foreign nationals were 3 times as likely to be arrested for sexual offences as British citizens. Further data that year revealed that the number of sexual offence convictions of foreign nationals had increased by 62% in the previous 4 years. Now, the highest conviction rates, reportedly, were from Afghanistan, Eritrea, people of that nationality, those nationalities. Places that, by the way, we don't deport anyone back to. Now, whilst I welcome Shabana Mahmood's deportation plan, but yet again, I don't think this Labour government is being entirely honest with you about the facts. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We have got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, former UK party member, former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry, former Labour minister, it's Bill Rammell. Carol, I'll start with you. What do you think of Shabana Mahmood's plans to deport people, you know, after they've before they can appeal?
In all of the cabinet, I think she's the one. I think she's a serious politician, and I think she wants to do what she says she's going to do. However, she's been thwarted by her own party. When she made all these announcements a few weeks ago, it was actually live on air here. It was on a Thursday, I remember. And while she was talking and making the announcement of what she wanted to do, already a bunch of Labour backbenchers had got a petition together against it. So as she was saying it, so she wants to do this stuff. But you're right, she has to look like she's doing something. And so on the surface, it sounds like this is a good thing. You know, nearly 55,000 people were granted refugee status last year. Two out of three, when they appeal, if they're rejected, 2 out of 3 people are successful. So even if she was going to deport the ones that she wanted, that doesn't amount to that many people. You know, where the number of appeals has doubled to 104,000 a year in this country, and the backlog for appeals is 100,000. Now that is staggering, and it's something that this government can't cope with. But the bottom line is most of them don't want to cope with it. They just want to let everyone in, and they want to just grant asylum to everyone. And we know, I think she's done this in response to Rayna last week, who actually said that her proposals were for immigration were British. The proposals for what's indefinite leave to remain to be extended from 5 years to 10. I think she's done this in response to that, to make it look like she's boxing clever with her own party. But she won't win, because they'll just vote every single thing down. This was a law that she's going to try and impose that Tony Blair passed. And when he was in power, he did deport a lot of people and didn't allow them to appeal. He deported 20,000 in 1 year. She ain't going to be able to do that.
Just window dressing, I think, Sir Jake, isn't it, this really? The idea that, OK, we're going to deport thousands of people before they have any right to appeal, but it's not to some of the main countries that people want people deported to.
Yeah, well, I agree. And look, on the face of it, it appears like a very attractive announcement. But let's look at what's actually happened since 2024, when Keir Starmer was elected as our Prime Minister with a plan to smash the gangs. The number of people coming into the UK has gone up, not down. We spent £500 million with the French police asking them to stop people on the beaches in France. The number of people they're stopping has gone down, so there's more people coming to the UK unimpeded by the French police. The backlog has gone up from 40,000 to 100,000. The number of appeals has gone up. The number of people in hotels, the number of hotels, not the number of people, has gone up. People are being housed in houses. This is an immigration system in crisis. And it's not a crisis created in the last 3 years, but it's got a lot worse. Now, this attempt by Shabana Mahmood to deport people before they've heard their final appeal for asylum, it's laudable, but it won't work. No. And it can't work as long as Britain remains in the ECHR. And that is why, not just on this sofa, but when I was in government, when I was sat around the cabinet table, I have been calling for years for Britain to leave the ECHR. It's all very well for us to say we regard India as safe, we regard Ukraine as safe. It is the courts who will block this. And as Carol rightly says, if it ever gets to the law books, because the Labour MPs might block it first.
Yeah. Bill, look, I can't help but wonder, if this was the Tories or Reform's policy to deport people before they'd had their right to appeal, would you be against that? Are you against this?
No, I'm not against this. And you know, let's have some reality check. No progress. Net migration is down from 1.1 million when you were in the cabinet, Jake, to about 200,000 today, and it's heading.
Yeah, but that's mainly because people are leaving the country to get away from Keir Starmer. More people have fled Keir Starmer's Britain, British people, than Russians have left Trump's Russia.
That is completely factually untrue.
That's not. That is correct.
Net migration numbers have come down dramatically because of the actions the government has taken. However, on the substance of Shabana Mahmood's proposals, I think they are sensible. You know, people who have a claim for asylum rejected, if they're from a safe country, they should go back for any appeal that they mount. Yes, there'll be some noisy opposition to this on the Labour backbenches. I actually think the overwhelming majority of Labour MPs will support it because they know we've got to tackle the migration challenges. And this is using legislation that was in place when I was a minister, where, for the record, we cut asylum numbers from 103,000 a year in 2002 to 19,000 a year by the time the last Labour government left office. So you can make progress on this issue. My concern is it's not going to come into a bill until the summer, and then it's probably going to take 9 months to implement, and I think we need much greater speed.
But it is interesting, we've got 14,000 people who came here last year from safe countries like Albania, like India, like Nigeria. Now, those people should not be allowed to stay at all, never mind appeal, because they are safe countries. They are not at war, those countries. Those people should be got rid of immediately. Why are we even giving them the right to apply for asylum? Why?
I mean, there is a case that I saw actually just almost immediately before I came on air, and if anything, it kind of trumps our Cameroonian homosexual case that we highlighted there. This is a paedophile migrant who failed to disclose child sex offences after coming to the UK, has won an appeal against deportation because the judge ruled it was an honest mistake. And, you know, it kind of doesn't really matter what Shabana Mahmood does or tries to do, does it, when you've got these rulings coming.
This is the point, though, and this is why I know it's like I can't help it. I'm a lawyer. It's why I keep making these legal points. That it's so important that just like Nigel Farage and the Reform Party have committed to, that we leave the ECHR, because ultimately Tony Blair actually did quite well on immigration. I acknowledge that. I think he really did make progress. But ultimately, the mission creep of the legal sector through the ECHR, through other European courts, in this industry, and it is an industry, this industry of bringing people into the country, has now made every Home Secretary's job effectively impossible. We have activist judges who want to increase immigration.
Just point out, every year we spend 35 million on legal aid for illegal immigrants. That's come to 600 million in the last 9 years. We have a judiciary, as you say, that is working against the national interest in this country and supporting vile criminals, most of the ones they allow to stay.
The judges interpret the law as is legislated for by Parliament.
No, they don't. They interpret it the way they want to.
No, they have to interpret it according to guidelines. And if we need change, then let's change.
No, but we can't do that.
But leaving, Jake, leaving the ECHR.
But we can't do that. You don't understand the facts. Sorry, you don't understand the facts.
And you don't. Leaving the ECHR would make it more difficult, for example, to get returns agreements with other European countries that we need.
I'm sorry. You just don't understand it. You have said. Let me point out. With respect,
I dealt with immigration as a minister, and you did.
Well, I'm sorry.
You cheerleaded as chair of the Tory party.
Do you know what? I wasn't just some mouthpiece who was given a ministerial job for 5 minutes. I actually trained as a lawyer and worked in some of the top law firms in the world. So let me tell you what the law is, because you're wrong. You are just wrong as a matter of fact. You said judges interpret the law as legislated for by Parliament. Categorically untrue. As long as we remain in the ECHR, all law created by the European Court, as a matter of course, gets brought immediately into the legal system here in the United Kingdom. Nothing to do with our Parliament. That's why you are absolutely wrong. Nothing to do with our Parliament. We have no control over it. And that is why I gave you credit for doing well as a Labour government. That is why we have lost control, because we have European judges who are expanding the legal rights of immigrants who shouldn't be in this country every single year. In fact, they gave 14,000 judgments last year that bind our courts without our Parliament having a say. You are wrong. You do not understand the issue.
I do understand the issue.
You are wrong.
It's exactly the same as case law affecting the body of evidence that then moves forward with legislation.
A moment ago, it was all to do with Parliament.
You just lost.
What is it, case law, or is it Parliament?
It is to do with Parliament and the laws that you create.
No, it's not. You are fundamentally wrong. You do not understand it.
We're obviously going to get no agreement on that particular issue, but let's just see about this one. So Liverpool City Council doing their bit there to say that, you know, there's no evidence to say.
And they're totally wrong on that as well, because there is government data to say it goes through country by country of the sexual offences that have been committed in this country by migrants, and it tells you which ones are the worst: Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan. It goes in order. So that they're telling downright lies to people. It's rubbish.
But that's quite important, though, isn't it? Because we're still kind of getting this guff served up to us, which is this, you know, rhetoric that, you know, there is no evidence. There's no evidence that certain men from certain cultures are more likely to be violent towards women or commit sexual assaults. I mean, they've served that up as a straightforward matter of fact, and that
I wonder if they ever...
that's just not true.
I wonder
It's
if they
not
ever go onto social media and see the videos there of men, of Muslim men in countries battering women across the head because they spoke out of turn, smacking them, stoning them to death. I wonder if they ever look at that and they say there's no evidence that these religions are violent towards women.
But it's difficult for... I just think that is basically a dereliction of duty. We're going to get here from a spokesperson for the council soon anyway, but I just feel like it's a dereliction of duty. It's kind of like gaslighting the public, isn't it?
Lying to people.
Well, I think public bodies do have a duty to make sure that the statements they put out there are accurate. It appears that this statement isn't. I'm really interested to hear what the council in my home city has to say about it. But I do think it's really important that we deal with facts.
Yeah, Bill, I mean, what do you make of this? I mean, Liverpool City Council basically saying they launched a myth-buster to say there's no evidence of a causal link between immigration, legal or illegal, and an increase in sexual assaults, etc. Whereas, the Centre for Migration Studies there, published a report on this based on government data and police data that appeared to show there's actually been a huge increase. There's something like 62% of an increase in sexual assault by foreign nationals in this country. And we can just see it. I mean, is it not slightly farcical to suggest that if you do import people from countries where women just don't really have any rights, that they're going to all of a sudden become feminists when they kiss the tarmac at Heathrow?
I think it's a real concern that you do have migrants coming from countries where the rights of women are completely disrespected, and I think that's a challenge that we've got to face up to and deal with. But actually, the figures are not clear-cut. One of the things that I think needs to happen is the recorded documentary evidence of the ethnicity and the nationality of people who commit sexual crimes needs to be... No, it hasn't. These are partial releases through freedom of information requests, and then
which they now want to clamp down on.
Well, I think we need to properly publish them. But the reality, Patrick, is still the biggest risk women face is from British white men when you look at the evidence. And across the board, we need to face up to that.
That is because of numbers in the country, and that's deplorable. Don't get me wrong, that is obviously absolutely, utterly deplorable and a complete shocker, right? Don't get me wrong. But, you've got to look at it kind of almost per capita, haven't you?
I was just saying, you can't compare it because the country is full of white men.
And the Home Office has resisted releasing these figures on a state-by-state basis, and I agree with you, actually. I think it's time that they did that because we need to see the facts.
All right, so we're going to have to whiz on. A Liverpool City Council spokesperson has said we will continue to provide clear, evidence-based communication as part of our wider work on community safety, cohesion and equality. The information shared in our recent communication draws on national data, including from the Office for National Statistics, alongside local policing insight and established research. This evidence consistently shows that violence against women and girls is a widespread issue across all communities and backgrounds. Our myth-busting content addresses unverified claims that can create fear, undermine trust and distract from the work needed to prevent violence and support survivors. Speaking to the Daily Mail, Mr Kama, who is the Cameroonian migrant that I spoke about earlier today, revealed that he has identified as gay since his mid-teens and entered into marriage solely as a strategy to escape widespread homophobia in Cameroon. He explained how his parents had thrown him out of the family home upon discovering his sexuality, and the marriage was arranged specifically to back their approval. I pretended I was changing, Mr Kama said. An official was bribed, I signed some documents and I asked for forgiveness from my family. Right, OK. Well, there we go. Look, the mind boggles. OK, right, look, loads more coming your way. But I do have to tell you now about the Great British Giveaway. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000 and it could be all yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this latest 2026 model comes fully loaded with everything you'd expect. You can even drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, it comfortably sleeps 4 people. Make sure you don't miss out on the biggest prize package of the year so far. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, look, coming up at 10 p.m.
Nein, keinen ist du, no. So der keinen ist du, kriegst du Flagge, du, vier ambulances Flagge.
Well, it's another anti-Semitic terror attack rocking Britain, but how much longer do we have to live like this? How long before our government wakes up to the threat posed by mad Islamists and radical leftists? But before that, should the Nottingham Forest footballer who revealed a God is Great T-shirt during a match yesterday be sanctioned? It looks like he might be. That's next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christys tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dan.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. What you're looking at there appears to be yet another anti-Semitic terrorist attack in Britain. How are those people still on the loose? And I can't be the only one who is very fearful of what is to come in the coming weeks and months. Devastating scenes there from Golders Green. More on that shortly. But first, though, it's time for the head-to-head. Should the Nottingham Forest footballer who revealed a God is Great T-shirt during a match yesterday be sanctioned? Let's debate it. So Nottingham Forest striker Taiwo Awoniyi could face disciplinary action after unveiling a God is the Greatest T-shirt during his side's win over Tottenham yesterday. While the referee immediately cautioned him for removing his shirt, the striker may now face further sanctions after revealing an undershirt bearing the words God is the greatest, as he celebrated. Now, under FA rules, sharing religious, political or personal messages is strictly prohibited. In 2024, you might remember that the then Crystal Palace captain, Mark Gay, narrowly avoided a sanction after wearing a rainbow armband worn to signify solidarity with the LGBTQ+ community, with the words, "I love Jesus," written on it. But the FA faced accusations of massive hypocrisy after the then Ipswich captain, Sam Morsey, was the only captain not to wear the rainbow armband due to his religious beliefs as a practising Muslim. The FA also allows Premier League players to take the knee, of course, if that is actively encouraged, isn't it? And more recently, matches were briefly paused to allow Muslim players to break the Ramadan fast. So tonight I'm asking, is the FA right to consider sanctioning the Tottenham Forest footballer who revealed the God is Greatest T-shirt? Go ahead, tell on this now. Former footballer Mickey Quinn and commentator Emma Wolfe, thank you very much. Mickey, start with you. What do you make of this?
Well, it didn't offend me, Patrick. First of all, good evening. When I watched it, I mean, there's nothing like scoring a goal. I think it's wrong for to get a booking to take a shirt off. I think that's a load of nonsense as well. And God is greatest. Well, that's debatable with everyone, isn't it? But it didn't offend me. This was a match in the heat of the moment where two clubs who were fighting for Premier League relegation, lots on it, and the guy scored a goal. You could see the relief on his face, and he wanted to celebrate by taking his shirt off, which we know is an automatic booking, and putting this T-shirt on. Didn't offend me. Did it offend anyone else? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just wonder about the hypocrisy here, really, because, you know, OK, there's the breaking of the Ramadan fast. I mean, that's obviously a religious thing. Then you've got the taking of the knee as well. I mean, you know, all right, it's not entirely to do with Black Lives Matter, but I would argue it's kind of inherently linked. Black Lives Matter, of course, published what many people would regard as a Marxist manifesto on their website. I mean, that's actively encouraged by the FA, I would argue. So where are you on this, Emma?
Well, look, I don't think that Owen's message of God is the greatest was offensive. It didn't offend me. I'm a Christian. I don't think that's an offensive message. But I think we need to be really clear. What if other religious views that we would find offensive were expressed on the pitch? What if a Muslim said homosexuality is a sin across their shirt, for example, or a Catholic said abortion is a crime? I think we just need to be really clear that we keep sport free from religion and politics, a kind of neutral space. And I think the rules need to be crystal clear and applied impartially. You've mentioned loads of different cases there where it's been basically double standards. And I completely agree with you. I don't really want people taking the knee. I don't want Black Lives Matter. I don't want any of these religious messages or cultural messages. You know, the Premier League is actually a success story in terms of real multiculturalism, isn't it? In terms of real millions of, you know, hundreds of different cultures and faiths and skin colours. And it's about skill. And it's about bringing people together. And lots of
something like this, Emma, I think for me, is petty, really, because there's other massive things going on in football. For instance, social media, professional footballers being racially abused, social media, Ibrahim Konate just last week. You know, there's bigger issues than this for the FA, the Premier League to sanction. And, you know, in the old days, we used to have T-shirts on with, "I'll be back home at 10, love. I'll have rice with me curry when I get in." Or, "Congratulations on your baby daughter. I love you, Mum. It's your birthday." I mean, come on. You know, this thing, I didn't find offensive at all.
But I think for many sports fans, you know, going to a game is the time when they can actually... We live in such a polarised and divided world. Everything is argumentative now. Everything is pro-Brexit, anti-Brexit. You know, you're this, you're that, you're right, you're left. But lots of fans, it's just a relief to go somewhere where they don't have to be polarised and divided and where they're actually united in one thing, which is a beautiful game. And so maybe we just need to be really, really... What if you were at Wimbledon and a tennis player whipped their top off with, I don't know, Allahu Akbar on their undershirt? That's not what we want in sport. And I don't understand.
Take each case as it individually. Take each case individually. This wasn't offensive. If there is, then you've got every right to ban the player, or if the T-shirts or anything is going to cause offence. I appreciate that there is slogans, messages, religious, whatever, that will offend. But in this case, I think it's so petty. The guy scored a goal. He's elated. His team are getting away from the relegation. And, you know, he wanted to say God is the greatest.
Yeah,
Mickey, how did they not know that he was wearing this shirt? Like,
oh, they knew. I mean, when you get
room,
changed in the changing rooms, you know.
I thought that was like a big boys' club where everyone sees each other. He's not hiding away in a corner, putting on this great big undershirt saying God is the greatest. How did he get away with wearing it?
Well, obviously the Premier League associates or FA don't go in the dressing room to see him getting changed. So he just puts it on. It's happened for years, down the years.
All right.
But I mean, every little thing's getting picked up on now. But I think the kid's got a bit of previous before for his country, Nigeria, when he scored. He had some psalm on his T-shirt when he scored, so he's got a bit of previous.
There's worse messages. This is the thing, you know. There's worse messages to be put out there than God is the greatest. I just think football is so riddled with shameless virtue signalling now that when someone takes their top off and it says God is the greatest, and you potentially sanction them for it, you're like, right, okay. Well, when the next game comes and there's a round of applause for LGBTQ+, and then you let them break the Ramadan fast, then everyone takes the knee, and you're like, right, well, this guy who revealed that God is greatest shirt isn't playing in it because he's been banned. It's ridiculous. But anyway, right, thank you very much, both of you, for picking through that minefield. That's former footballer Mickey Quinn and commentator Emma Wolf. Right, GB News has asked the FA for a comment. We're yet to hear back. Coming up, though, much more serious stuff this at 10 p.m.
Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and it's really important that we all stand together at a moment like this.
Look, it's hollow words, this, I think, isn't it? And where is Sadiq Khan? I don't think he's shown his face in Golders Green today. Why not? How long before our government wakes up to the threat posed by mad Islamists and also the radical left? But before that, the BBC is set to announce its new boss later this week. He's a former Google executive with no broadcasting experience. I've got the inside scoop for you on who he is and some of his eyebrow-raising previous jobs. That's next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Heavy rain will continue across the Canaries over the next couple of days. Some fine weather across Spain and Portugal. Low pressure still across the Canaries, Madeira as well, seeing the risk of some rain. Sunny spells across Spain and Portugal, feeling pleasant. But low pressure also dominates parts of Italy and Greece. Outbreaks of heavy rain here on the cold side as well for the time of year. The rain across the Canaries will start to ease, particularly towards the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. We've had the last of the sunshine for many of us today. Rain and showers moving in. It will turn colder for a time too, though the dry weather does return for the weekend. Why is it changing? Well, low pressure's moving in, pushing away the high pressure we've had, bringing that nice weather, and it will introduce weather fronts from the north and west. So it will turn more unsettled across northwestern areas through this evening. A spell of wet weather, some windy weather too. Elsewhere, further south and east, it should remain relatively dry, but cloud will thicken through the night. That does mean, though, it's going to be a mild night, much milder than it has been lately. Temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees to start the day. But more in the way of rain to come on Tuesday, particularly across northwestern areas of England. Now, once that weather front pushes south through Scotland, we'll see showers push in from the west. Some of these could be quite heavy, very blustery, and they bring a risk of hail as well as hill snow. So a very different feel into tomorrow. The rain will start to intensify through Tuesday morning across western areas of northern England into Wales as well. But for many of us, it will be a dry and dull start to the day across England and Wales. You can see that rain starting to intensify across Northern Ireland, northwestern England, as well as North Wales through Tuesday lunchtime. Here it will linger through much of the day, bringing a risk of some localised flooding issues. Further rain to come across parts of Scotland too. It should remain dry across the far south and east, but a breezier and cooler day to come here with less in the way of sunshine. And then that more unsettled, colder weather will be more widely felt into Wednesday. For many of us, we could see snow flurries across the high ground. Some brisk northerly winds will bring a very different feel to the weather. It's going to feel very chilly for Wednesday into Thursday. However, as I mentioned, it does look like the drier weather and slightly warmer weather will return by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB Loyalty Points is here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on Your Say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB Loyalty Points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Look, at 10 p.m. we're going to be getting stuck right into this anti-Semitic terror attack that has ripped through Golders Green. But before that, a former Google boss with no direct experience of TV journalism is set to be announced as the new boss of the BBC this week, the Director General at least. According to The Times, the BBC board approved Matt Britton's appointment as Director General last week. He will replace Tim Davie, who's stepping down next month after announcing his resignation last year over the scandal involving Panorama's misleading edit of President Trump's speech. But Mr Britton's appointment will raise a few eyebrows, not least because he has no real broadcast journalism experience. He attended private school before studying at Cambridge and held a number of high-profile business roles, including at the left-wing Trinity Mirror Group, before rising to become Europe and Middle East boss at Google. He currently sits on the board of the Guardian Media Group and the Climate Group, a charity aiming to achieve a world of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Well, joining us now is former BBC presenter Roger Bolton. Roger, always great to see you. So, look, what do you make of this chap, then? Is this just another example of a kind of posh, privately educated Cambridge person with luxury beliefs in charge of the Beeb?
Oh, Patrick, no, he's a very successful businessman. He's run Google for a long time. You don't survive in Google unless you're very good. The big question is, nobody can do the job, every bit of the DG's job. So you've got a guy there who clearly can look after the business. He's an ideal person to steer them through the future technologically. The big question is, does he have a vision about public service content? And the other question, I think, which is crucial, I thought you'd be interested in, is how do you genuinely make the BBC accountable? Because we all have to pay for it. Therefore, we should all have a say on its direction and what it does. And at the moment, we don't. So I think it's very good they've got a top businessman. He will look after the money. He will negotiate the way through the technology. But these other two questions remain. What's the BBC for in terms of content? And how do we make it accountable to us?
Yeah, no, look, very valid question, and actually very relevant in light of a scandal that is brewing online as we speak. And this is a little clip, actually, from a BBC show called The Capture, I believe, which was accused of pumping out some pretty inflammatory stuff yesterday. Here it is.
Go ahead. Mum, it looks like Whitlock got hold of those Home Office documents via Freedom of Information requests. He made a total of 9 requests during his time in prison.
9 Freedom of Information requests?
It sounds like Whitlock had it in for the Home Office. He accused the government of covering up the true stats on undocumented migrants.
Fair to say it's something of an obsession for the lad.
Whitlock's 4chan account, Mum, deactivated last month.
Because?
Sending you the post that got him kicked off the platform.
Like history books,
say the last land invasion of England was 1066. Now, in actual fact, the last land invasion of England was yesterday morning at 9:45 when a boat carrying 40 undocumented male migrants landed in Dungeness, Kent. Right,
Well, this is what many people regard as relatively subtle BBC bias, you know, at a time when obviously the migrant crisis is absolutely flaring up, and we've got, you know, kind of issues with the FOI stuff that the government is potentially looking at clamping down on FOI. To be pumping this stuff out there, you know? Do you think he'd clamp down on this? Do you think he'd look to clamp down on this type of thing?
Hold on, Patrick. This is a drama. You've taken a clip out of drama. This is what you do on your show. You take one example and you try and say it's representative of everything the BBC does and it represents some left-wing plot or whatever. It's a drama. There are lots of dramas. You know, it doesn't mean the BBC agrees with every view expressed by a writer. I mean,
well, they commissioned it, didn't they?
And said that's representative. Why do you think that's representative?
Well, they commissioned it, and I suppose it does actually follow an actual documentary which was narrated by the son of a Hamas minister, doesn't it? So I'm just wondering if it's this kind of stuff that you think that the new incoming Director-General might look to clamp down on. That's what I'm asking. Do you think he'll clamp down on this stuff or not?
Oh, hold on. So you keep throwing these things in. That documentary was a separate thing about doctors in Gaza, wasn't it? And actually, nobody's denying that what's happening in Gaza is appalling, and the level of deaths and destruction are appalling. The BBC should not have used as a narrator that figure, but what it showed was the reality as we now know.
Narrated by the son of a Hamas minister.
You believe, your organisation believes, or you believe, that the BBC is completely biased, and I don't. But where we should agree is that the BBC should be accountable, and it should be much more open in explaining what it tries to do and revealing the processes by which it makes programmes. Now, it's gone some way to do that. I hope this new DG will do a lot more, and also ensure that people who are critical, like you, are able to cross-examine BBC. I mean, you know, I'm a second division player, really, right? And you're using me because you can never get anybody from the BBC to come on. Well, they should come on and debate with you. You deserve to be debated with, but you need to have the decision makers with you explaining what's happening. And I think the BBC traditionally has been very reluctant to do that. Well, it's got to change. It's got to be much more accountable. It's got to explain itself, and it's got to ask people what they want, not just what the BBC wants them to have.
Fascinating stuff. Look, Roger, I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. You don't dig yourself down. You're not a second division player. You know, I'd have
all
you.
right. Well, okay, but certainly
I'd have you. Europa League.
Bottom
you
of
know?
the Premier League. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, mate. All right. Roger Bolton, former BBC presenter. Take care. Right. Well, look, coming up, very serious. This obviously the most serious story of the day at 10 p.m.
Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and it's really important that we all stand together at a moment like this.
Look, the people responsible for this anti-Semitic terror attack in Golders Green are still at large. And how have we ended up here? At some point, are people going to front up to the fact they've allowed a load of mad Islamists in, and frankly, they've been propped up by radical leftists? But before that, parents, a landmark court case that could affect your kids. Parents have gone to court to stop a school letting boys identify as girls and then use female spaces. All the details and how it could affect you, your kids, your grandkids in the next few minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here. GBNews,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. So look, it's a landmark court case this. A father and his teenage daughter have launched a huge High Court challenge against a Brighton secondary school for allowing male pupils who identify as female to use the girls' toilets and changing rooms. Now, according to their claim, the dispute began when the 15-year-old girl told her father she believed she'd been sharing a girls' changing room with a pupil who was born male but now identifies as female. Neither she nor her parents had been told that this could happen. And when they raised their concerns with the school, they claimed that they were ignored. Lawyers for the father and daughter claim that allowing trans people to female facilities amounts to discrimination against girls and, crucially, breaches equality law, education regulations and human right protections. And the reason this is so important for you, your kids, your grandkids, people you care about generally, is because obviously the result of this court case might define what is allowed or not allowed to happen at your school. I'm joined now by teacher Debbie Hayton. Debbie, thank you very, very much. Look, how do you feel about this then? Are you on the side of the father and daughter who are saying that this is outrageous and a breach of the law?
No, I think that the facilities for children in schools should be segregated by sex, Patrick, and that's clear. But I don't understand why the school and Brighton Council are going to fight this case. It's ridiculous. This is not 2018 anymore, and the law is clear. The school premises regulations 2012 say that separate toilet facilities for boys and girls aged 8 years or over must be provided. There's separate facilities. Now, we could have an argument over what is a boy and what is a girl, and we could take a case all the way to the Supreme Court, as was happened with the Equality Act. But I can't imagine the Supreme Court going to give a different ruling to they gave last year, and all it's going to do...
Which, just to be clear, Debbie, sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, basically defined it on sex, genetics, wasn't it?
Yeah,
biology.
Yeah. And I can't imagine them doing anything different again. So why are public bodies spending any money defending this case? If they are defending the case, it's ridiculous.
And look, I don't mind me saying this, but, I think there's a certain context here, Debbie, which is that you are trans, you're also an educator, aren't you? So your views on this are vitally important. And, would it be fair to say that basically some of these councils, some of these schools are giving in to, more radical fringes of, the kind of trans or equalities, what would you call it, I suppose, lobby, maybe? Is that what's happening? Because you're not in favour of this.
No, I think there should be separate facilities for boys and girls, and put in some additional single-use facilities for anybody who doesn't want to share with their own sex. It's simple. The answer's there staring us in the face. But go back 8 or 9 years, and it just seemed that we were in a land of lunacy where where reality was discounted. And thankfully, we've moved on from there. But it seems to me there are some pockets who have not yet accepted that people have woken up to the lunacy which was going around a few years ago.
And it is absolutely vital, this court case, because it could set a precedent once and for all, hopefully, that, you know, for people out there who are genuinely worried about sending their kids to certain schools in case this kind of thing happens, especially if they've got daughters, obviously, who are worried about this kind of stuff. This is a vitally important court case, isn't it?
Well, it is, and everything comes to policy. A school needs a policy. Should boys who identify as girls be allowed to use the girls' toilets? Should they be permitted on a case-by-case basis, or should it not be permitted? And a school needs a policy on that, and that policy needs to be challenged at whatever level.
Debbie, thank you very much. Always a real pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the very best. Debbie Hayton there, who is, of course, a teacher as well. Now, Brighton and Hove Council have declined to comment. Look, we're going to get round to the big story of the day at 10 p.m.
Nein, keinen ist du, no. So der keinen ist du, kriegst du Flagge, du, vier ambulances Flagge.
Well, it's another anti-Semitic terror attack rocking Britain, but how much longer do we have to live like this? How long before our government wakes up to the threat posed by mad Islamists and the fact that it's very often been radical leftists who are propping them up? Where is Sadiq Khan? Mr. Diversity is our greatest strength. I can't help but wonder if this attack had been at a mosque, whether or not he'd have been straight there. But, of course, it was a synagogue and it affected the Jewish community, so he's just released a statement. Plus, Iranian missiles appear to be, well within reach of the United Kingdom. And have we got any defences against them? And is Keir Starmer lying to us about that? That and all your front pages, shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. We've had the last of the sunshine for many of us today. Rain and showers moving in. It will turn colder for a time too, though the dry weather does return for the weekend. Why is it changing? Well, low pressure's moving in, pushing away the high pressure we've had, bringing that nice weather, and it will introduce weather fronts from the north and west. So it will turn more unsettled across northwestern areas through this evening. A spell of wet weather, some windy weather too. Elsewhere, further south and east, it should remain relatively dry, but cloud will thicken through the night. That does mean, though, it's going to be a mild night, much milder than it has been lately. Temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees to start the day. But more in the way of rain to come on Tuesday, particularly across northwestern areas of England. Now, once that weather front pushes south through to Scotland, we'll see showers push in from the west. Some of these could be quite heavy, very blustery, and they bring a risk of hail as well as hill snow. So a very different feel into tomorrow. The rain will start to intensify through Tuesday morning across western areas of northern England into Wales as well. But for many of us, it will be a dry and dull start to the day across England and Wales. You can see that rain starting to intensify across Northern Ireland, northwestern England, as well as North Wales through Tuesday lunchtime. Here it will linger through much of the day, bringing a risk of some localised flooding issues. Further rain to come across parts of Scotland too. It should remain dry across the far south and east, but a breezier and cooler day to come here with less in the way of sunshine. And then that more unsettled, colder weather will be more widely felt into Wednesday. For many of us, we could see snow flurries across the high ground. Some brisk northerly winds will bring a very different feel to the weather. It's going to feel very chilly for Wednesday into Thursday. However, as I mentioned, it does look like the drier weather and slightly warmer weather will return by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Everything you need to enjoy a super summer could be on us this year, as you could drive away with this very latest Benivan 4-berth camper van. This camper van is fully equipped with its own kitchen, bathroom, dinette and plenty of storage. We'll also get your summer sorted with a further £25,000 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us? And always entertaining. And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Nein, keinen ist du, no. Sag dir keinen ist du, kriegst du Flagge, du, 4 ambulances Flagge.
It's another anti-Semitic terror attack that rocks London.
Are you a supporter of ISIS?
Do you want to answer? Yes.
How many more incidents before people wake up?
Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and it's really important that we all stand together at a moment like this.
I mean, he's got some front there, hasn't he? Hollow words from a hollow Prime Minister. How are these 3 suspects as well still at large? A manhunt is underway tonight. How on earth have they not been caught? Could they strike again? In other news... Well, Britain appears to be in range of Iranian missiles, and it looks like we don't have any defences. I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages leading the Daily Express tomorrow. They go with anti-Semitic ambulance attack. We must work to eliminate this ancient scourge. Well, yeah, but you know what? They've done their best to let it in, haven't they? They've done their best to let it in, and I'm afraid this is the natural progression for the Diversity is Our Greatest Strength Brigade. On my panel tonight, we've got the Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, Reform UK member and ex-Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry, and former Labour minister Bill Rammell. And it was madness at a New York airport today. Really, really terrifying stuff. And can you tell me, please, what's going on here? What are we looking at on the screen there? Some massive whales. What do you think they're doing? What's happening? Well, I'll tell you shortly. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Britain is at war. Next.
Good evening. The latest from the GB newsroom at 10 p.m. The Prime Minister has condemned what he calls deeply shocking anti-Semitic attack in North London. 4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish community charity in Golders Green were set alight and loud explosions were heard as gas cylinders ignited. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation, which is being treated as a hate crime. They're continuing to search for 3 suspects. Hundreds of people have been attending a rally against anti-Semitism this evening. Sir Keir Starmer says it has no place in society, but the campaigner, Gideon Falter, says the government response is not enough.
We've now had successive governments tolerating everything from hate marches to hate preachers and doing absolutely nothing about it. The tolerant, decent Britain that we all thought we knew has turned into a Britain where people turn up in the dead of night and burn ambulances down to the ground.
The Prime Minister has warned the war in the Middle East could go on for some time and that the government is looking at targeted support to help with rising energy bills. Sir Keir Starmer has chaired an emergency COBRA meeting this evening to discuss the economic impact of the conflict here in the UK. Meanwhile, the Foreign Office has summoned Iran's ambassador to the UK over what it calls reckless and destabilising attacks in Britain and overseas. And the Defence Secretary John Healey has confirmed the warship HMS Dragon has arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean almost 3 weeks after its deployment was first announced.
We have more jets in the region than at any time in the last 15 years. And I can confirm that HMS Dragon has arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean and tonight begins operational integration into Cyprus's defence. I totally condemn Iran's reckless attacks. Iran must stop. It must de-escalate. We want to see this war end now.
And GB News can reveal almost 1,000 migrants in 17 small boats have crossed the English Channel to the UK in just 6 days. It's after 270 migrants made the journey today. Maritime security forces warned of a surge in crossings with the improvement in weather conditions. Over 4,000 migrants have already made the journey so far this year, and the government is preparing to hand France a further £500 million to help tackle the crisis, as the current deal is due to expire next week. In New York, 2 pilots have died and dozens of passengers were injured in a runway incident at LaGuardia Airport. The Air Canada plane was carrying 72 people when it crashed into a fire truck. More than 40 of them have been taken to hospital. The incident forced the closure of the airport and hundreds of flights have been cancelled. It has since reopened. Donald Trump has deployed armed immigration officers to major airports across the country amid a shortage of air traffic controllers due to a partial US government shutdown. That's the latest. Let's get back to Patrick.
Good evening. It looks like there is a new terrorist group in town. At 1:45 a.m, 3 masked people entered the grounds of a synagogue and set fire to ambulances. Counter-terrorism police are currently leading the investigation. Many are saying this is clearly yet another anti-Semitic terror attack on British soil. The end result of the arson was this.
Nein, keine nicht du, nu. Sog der keine nicht du, kriegst du Flagge, du, 4 ambulances flacket.
Reportedly, an Iranian-backed terror group called Harakat Ashab al-Yamin al-Islamiyah, the Islamic movement of the Companions of the Right, appears to be linked to the attack. They claim they are also behind other attacks against Jewish sites in Belgium, Amsterdam and Rotterdam. Now, these include an explosive attack at a synagogue in Liège, Belgium, an arson attack at a Rotterdam synagogue, and an explosive device set off at a Jewish school in Amsterdam. Yeah, a school. The message is clear. No Jew is safe in Britain, quite possibly in Europe. The Prime Minister issued this response.
This is a horrific anti-Semitic attack. And, of course, my thoughts, I think all of our thoughts, will be with those in the vicinity, the residents who are understandably very concerned, a Jewish community across the country deeply concerned. I've already been in touch with community leaders this morning and will continue to do so during the day. But anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and it's really important that we all stand together at a moment like this.
It's hollow words, isn't it? Keir Starmer still won't prescribe the IRGC. He tried to get Corbyn elected twice. He's pressing ahead with the new Islamophobia definition. Labour courted the Muslim vote for years. He's been fully behind the mass importation of people from countries that hate the Jews. London Mayor Sadiq Khan released a statement saying how appalled he is by this attack. And then he went on telly and said this.
I'm afraid we know you could do a graph in terms of tension in the Middle East and an increase in anti-Semitism in London and across the UK and indeed across the globe. And we've got to recognise that there is no link between the two in terms of no Jewish person in this country should be attacked because of what's happening in the Middle East. And we've got to make sure we don't conflate two very separate issues. You may have strong views about the Middle East. That's no excuse to treat somebody less favourably because they are Jewish.
What a ridiculous thing to say when we've had huge pro-Palestine and pro-Ayatollah demonstrations happening in London for years. Did he condemn people waving pro-Ayatollah posters around last week? I'm not sure he did. Sadiq Khan hasn't bothered to go to Golders Green today to speak to those affected. I mean, you can guarantee that if this was an attack on a mosque, he'd have been there in a flash. He found the time to attend a huge Islamic prayer in Trafalgar Square.
Not just the biggest iftar in the continent of Europe, but the biggest iftar in Western world.
Look, at the time of writing this monologue, we hadn't heard anything from Zara Sultana, Owen Jones, who I think is in Cuba at the moment, or Gaza Gang MP Iqbal Mohammed hasn't posted anything about the attack either. His Twitter feed is just all about Islamophobia, as far as I can tell. Green Party leader Zach Polanski said he was appalled, which would probably mean more if he wasn't always banging on about Gaza, spent the Gorton and Denton by-election hoovering up votes at mosques, and if his co-deputy leader hadn't attended what looked very much like a pro-Iranian regime rally a few weeks ago. Yeah, now look, he claims he was just there to protest against a war. Members of the civil service attended an event at the Iranian embassy to mark the anniversary of the Islamist regime taking power. Look, what happened in Golders Green did not happen out of the blue. People say they were shocked by it. It's a shocking attack. It's not shocking, is it? You know, there was a terrorist attack at a synagogue in Manchester. We foiled the largest ever terror attack on British soil, also in Manchester, where ISIS fanatics were planning a marauding gun attack on Jews and Christians. We foiled roughly 20 late-stage Iranian terror attacks on British soil in the last few years. We know that there are Iranian sleeper cells here. We have the Islamic Centre of England in London, where the Ayatollah previously appointed the leader. They're allowed to have the Islamic Republic of Iran School in Maida Vale in London, which consistently fails Ofsted inspections since 2016 and was embroiled in controversy following reports that pupils chanted about the massacre of Jews and in support of the Iranian regime ideology. It comes after months and months of protests outside Jewish restaurants.
Disgrace and show you what Zionism is really about: racism, imperialism, and genocide.
Yeah, there have been attacks on Gale's Bakery, where they've had windows smashed, they've been daubed with red paint, simply because the person who founded it happened to be Jewish all those years ago. They founded that bakery, and now it's a problem. We've had art exhibitions showing Jews eating babies. Right, that was allowed, just to go to an art exhibition and there's depictions of Jews eating babies. I mean, this is part of the problem. This, right here, what I'm about to show you now, is part of the problem. Even after the ambulances were set on fire outside a synagogue today in London, the legacy media looks at this attack and tries to make it all about Islamophobia.
Dove, when you see last week the Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy singling out the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, for praying in Trafalgar Square in a Muslim group and saying that is wrong and shouldn't happen, isn't that the kind of intolerance and divisiveness which is causing problems in the Jewish community right now? Do you condemn that as well? You just know Ed Balls thought that was such a clever question, don't you, really?
It's ridiculous. It's all well and good, Keir Starmer saying that the taxpayer will pay for new ambulances after the attack in Golders Green. And by the way, these ambulances are for everyone. It's not just the Jewish community. But does anyone stop and think why they need them? Why do Jews need their own security services, ambulances, heavy security at schools, at their places of worship, even at their own homes? Well, it's because of the number of mad Islamists and radical leftists that we've got in Britain. And what are Keir Starmer or Sadiq Khan going to do about it? Well, nothing really. There's your answer. And in fact, I've got some breaking news for you just coming into us right now. This is Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, who has delivered these remarks at the Community Security Trust annual dinner in London this evening. This is obviously a Jewish security service, right? So he was at that dinner this evening, and these comments are just coming through to us right now. He says, Britain's Jewish community has in recent years been increasingly targeted by individuals, groups and hostile states intent on spreading fear, hate and harm. This volatile mix is at the front of my mind given events of today. It is too early to attribute last night's attack in Golders Green to the Iranian state. That is rightly for the counter-terrorism investigation to determine. But whoever is responsible, the impact is serious. You've heard of increased patrols in vigilance on Jewish communities since October the 7th. And from today, you will see, and this is what he's announced today from the Metropolitan Police, additional highly visible firearms patrols. These officers will be visible and serve as a protective deterrent to those who wish to do our communities harm. An additional 264 officers alongside existing neighbourhood officers to deploy to vulnerable locations. Operation Servitor deployments, which is apparently uniformed and plainclothes officers across key sites and high footfall areas. They're going to be utilising drones, and they're going to be strengthening protective security plans for Jewish schools, strengthening security for synagogues and community centres ahead of Passover. That will continue to be monitored. Joint patrols with CST, which is that Community Security Trust, and other security partners. They're also going to be delivering daily calls with Jewish community representatives. So that's what the head of the Metropolitan Police has announced in the last few minutes. And that's all well and good, obviously very welcome, and that's that. But how depressing is that? How depressing is it that we now, in 2026, in Britain, need that? Let's get the views of my panel this evening. We have got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've got Reform UK member, former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry, former Labour minister Bill Rammell. Carol, I'll start with you. It looks like there may well be a new terrorist group in town.
Yeah, can I just address Mark Rowley first? This is hypocrisy in the extreme. This bloke has stood by for the last 2.5 years while the Palestinian protesters have harassed Jews on the streets. Jews have been asked to move on if they're wearing a skull cap because they're being provocative. They've been attacked, they've been harassed. The Palestinian mobs have been chanting for intifada. And he's doing all this now, 2.5 years too late. He's allowed the Jew hatred to flourish. Anyway, back to this. This attack was apocalyptic Jew hatred, and I think we've just witnessed an Iranian attack on British soil. This group that you talked about, the Islamic movement of the Companions of the Right, lots of atrocities being committed in various countries in Europe by this group, and this group has warned Europe not to align itself with Israel or with America, and that if it does, it will have a target. That country will have a target on its back, and it looks like this great. So the enemy just isn't at the gates, it's already inside, because already we know the Henry Jackson Society has been saying that Iranian groups have infiltrated our society. They're already embedded here. 2 Iranians were arrested last week what were they arrested for? Trying to get into the submarine base on the Clyde. 3 more were arrested at the beginning of the month for spying on Jewish communities and Jewish people. So they're here already. They're plotting and they're planning, and they hate the West. So there's going to be trouble with who would be a Jew in this country, in Britain today? Who?
Well, just on this, I mean, look, the latest, the breaking line really is what Sir Mark Rowley, the head of the Met, has announced there, which is essentially increased security, increased firearms presences outside Jewish areas, synagogues, schools, etc. You know, OK, I'm sure that members of the Jewish community are very happy about that. But it doesn't actually deal with the real problem, does it?
No, I do hope they are relieved to hear that from the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, not least because the fear of Jewish families sat around dinner tables tonight in Manchester, in London, in Leeds, in in other cities around the UK, will be absolutely real. There will be families who are sending their children to a Jewish school tomorrow morning, primary school children, who'll be thinking, are those kids going to come home? And that's why I think those words are reassuring. But how depressing that we live in a country where we have allowed politicians, the police, people in power, have allowed anti-Jewish racism to grow to such an extent in parts of our community here in Britain, whether these people are new arrivals or people who've been here for generations. How depressing is for the United Kingdom that we have to have armed officers at school gates because your child may not come back from school.
But,
it's really, really depressing. And I do think this is one thing we haven't mentioned is there was the Yom Kippur attack in the synagogue in Manchester last October.
Jewish people killed.
This is part of a growing body of acts of violence we are seeing on our streets here in the UK. And whatever steps we have to take, we have to try and clamp down on this.
Look, Bill, I'll put this to you as a former Labour minister. Keir Starmer, Sadiq Khan, I would argue possibly Sadiq Khan especially, absolute brass neck on these people, aren't they? Coming out and, condemning this and saying, it's so shocking. Sadiq Khan didn't bother to turn up to that today. He's the Mayor of London. He keeps going on about how diversity is our greatest strength and London's the best city in the world. Well, he didn't want to go and be confronted by members of the Jewish community today, did he?
Well, I think Sadiq Khan should have gone there today. Wes Streeting was there, and that should have happened. But look, this attack is just appalling. Attacking ambulances, trying to blow up ambulances that are there for the safety of people is just shocking and appalling. But look, this whole debate is describing this as though this is a unique British problem. It's not. Anti-Semitic attacks have risen across the West, across Europe.
Why?
For a variety of reasons.
We've allowed the main reason.
But it needs to be tackled. Well, in part, it's because of Islamism.
Mass of people from countries that hate the Jews.
No. But it's really important that we don't elide these awful terrorists, because I think that's what they are, with people who are legitimately protesting about what they see happening in the Middle East. Look,
We've seen
this TV
coppers
channel
in the street
chanting
for Intifada and coppers standing by doing nothing. So don't tell me now they're going to start being active to protect Jews. I don't believe it.
This TV channel says it's in favour of free speech. You can't have free speech that you don't like with and free speech that you do. I've heard people on this channel say that if you chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that you should be banned from doing that and you should be arrested. Now, I abhor that view. I think it's simplistic and it's wrong, but you can't ban it from actually being chanted.
You can't deny that Keir Starmer is responsible for a culture that is more horrified by the criticism of Islam than the mob bloodlust for the death of all Jews. He is responsible for letting that happen in this country. He says he's horrified by it. It's just blah, it's just words. He does nothing about it. Absolutely nothing.
I think the notion that there is this simplistic solution that the government just clicks its fingers and it can stop this problem.
It's had 2.5 years, Bill. It's been surging for 2.5 years.
Well, it's been 18 months, actually. But
2.5 years of protests.
But the idea you can just click your fingers and resolve this problem, I think, is simplistic
Why do we allow mobs of Islamists to chant anti-Semitic stuff at this rally the other week in support of the Ayatollah? And yet we go mad. Nick Timothy said last week that mass Muslim prayer in public spaces was... The
benchmark should be violence and advocacy of violence. If you're doing that, you should be arrested.
Do you
think,
for example, just give you a recent example, at the Iranian protests with Robinson Foster, the famous rapper, who chanted death to the IDF, do you think that should have been something the police regarded as a crime?
Yes,
they didn't.
do. Okay. Because it is actually advocating violence.
Well, I agree with you. But it's the second time he's done it and nothing's happened. I think that's what we're trying to get at. To give you another example, just from this week, an artist... his exhibition was advertised by Thanet Council, a Labour council, I know they've since apologised, who depicted Jewish people, terrible anti-Semitic tropes, the sort of appalling images of hook-nosed, cartoons
Eating
and caricatures, the sort of thing you saw under Nazi Germany, eating babies. But again, the police have said there's no case to answer that. Can you see why people would say that we have a two-tier policing system where, you know, people who incite violence against Jewish people do not seem to be subject to the same kind of law than people who make comments about Islam? Using those two examples.
That particular case, I thought was shocking and unacceptable. And I think there is a challenge and there is a problem of groups of people, and in this case it was a council, almost casually supporting depictions, campaigns, because they're concerned about Gaza, which actually are utterly anti-Semitic.
We have let 25,000 unvetted Iranians into this country in the past 8 years. Yes, some of them would have been escaping the regime, but a lot of them have been put here, and they're the people who are in the sleepers now. They're getting ready to attack.
Look, we keep hearing relentlessly from everyone that diversity is our greatest strength and that we are a multicultural success story and all of this stuff. OK, well, here's your multicultural success story. We've now got increased firearms officers walking around protecting Jewish primary schools. We've got, you know, drones in the sky. We've got people living in fear. We've got 3 people on the run at the moment after setting fire to ambulances that were actually within the perimeter of a synagogue. You've just had an absolutely massive ISIS-inspired terrorist attack foiled at the last minute. 20 late-stage Iranian terrorist attacks foiled. Airport-style security at Christmas markets. Fantastic, fantastic. How enriching this is now. Oh, gosh, I feel enriched. I don't know about everybody else. It's absolutely magnificent that we've got all of this. I mean, at what point, how many more curtailments to our lives, how many more bollards are we going to have to put up before people decide, actually, maybe we got this one a little bit wrong. Maybe we got it wrong. But, well, we're going to be talking a lot more about this, because obviously we've got all the front pages coming your way. And actually, there are other dangers facing us as well, this time from actual missiles from the Iranians. But in what is probably the worst handbrake turn I've ever had to do on this, it is now the Great British Giveaway. And so you can be in it to win it.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000, and it could be all yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this latest 2026 model comes fully loaded with everything you'd expect. You can even drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, it comfortably sleeps 4 people. Make sure you don't miss out on the biggest prize package of the year so far. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages breaking on the front of the tomorrow's Daily Telegraph. Starmer refuses to commit to a timeline on defence spending pledge, and that ties in perfectly with what we're about to do. Could the Iranian missiles reach the UK? And is it true that we don't have any defences against them? And more importantly, is it true that Keir Starmer tried to cover up the fact that the Iranians tried to bomb Diego Garcia? That's next.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live. Are you excited for the arrival of our Harry and America's Meghan?
Oh, look, we're always excited for the arrival of anyone who's royally adjacent, and that's what you can call them these days. What I'm mostly excited about, though, is in several decades of covering the royals, of course, when they came here in 2018, they were at the peak of their global power and fascination. Meghan announced that she was pregnant with baby Archie. They sat on the sand. Meghan baked banana bread. We couldn't get enough of them. We absolutely loved them. But here, 7 years later, this is a country built on mateship, on loyalty, on service, and I don't think they represent those characteristics anymore.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I said last night, I went on a bit of a rant saying, you know, Meghan especially preaches humanity and compassion and forgiveness. I mean, look how she treated her dad. There's some event in Australia, either in Melbourne or Sydney, where they're holding a speech, basically. Tickets start at £1,000, with tickets rising to more than £9,000 sterling for a platinum table of 8. Do you think, I mean, who is buying those £9,000 tickets, do you think, Angela?
Look, we don't have that kind of wealth in Australia. Well, certainly not that sort of wealth that would pay for those sort of people. I think we would pay for technology experts or thought leaders, but I don't put Meghan in that category. Look, one of those events, the one that Meghan's speaking at, is the Besties event, where we think we'll just hear, what I suspect is we'll just hear more of the same that we've heard in her podcasts, which, you know, if anyone who listened to them, they were as boring as batshit. So the fact that she's going to charge this amount of money, that event is only thought to make £500,000.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Look, welcome back. Now, obviously, this is in light of what we saw in Golders Green in the early hours of this morning, but Israel has warned that Iranian missiles could reach Britain after Tehran fired 2 ballistic missiles on Friday towards the joint UK-US military base in the Chagos Islands. That base lies more than 2,000 miles away from Iran, well beyond what was thought to be the outer limit of that regime's reach, prompting fears that the Islamist regime could actually hit the UK. And just to make matters worse, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, was accused by Kemi Badenoch of trying to cover up Iran's attempted attack on Diego Garcia, which was only made public in the US media and then confirmed 24 hours later by the government. And actually, as well, there are serious concerns now that we don't have any defences against this kind of missile here in Britain. Look, I'm joined now by former British Army officer and Middle East advisor at the Ministry of Defence, Lieutenant General Sir Simon Mail. Thank you so much. Look, first things first, can the Iranians reach us?
Very unlikely, frankly. They may have some missiles from their space programme that, if they remove the warheads, might have the reach. But in terms of anything significant, no. The Israelis, I think quite rightly and very understandably, are keen to ensure that people understand the threat that Iran poses across the region and wider. And so it's in their interest to tell us this. But that is not to say that Iran would not have continued to develop its ballistic missile program in order to have something that could reach the West, and meanwhile advance with its nuclear program. So at a certain stage, one could have been confronted a bit like North Korea with Iran suddenly saying, we have a nuclear capability and we've mounted it on a ballistic missile system and it can reach you. So this is what has been at stake in this campaign against Iran.
Well, and also the fact that they subscribe to a kind of genocidal ideology that welcomes their own death, which is certainly the worst combination for someone to then have a nuclear weapon, I suppose. Do you think that the biggest threat that Iran poses is actually what's already here in Britain in terms of things like sleeper cells, etc., not really the idea that they could fire a missile at London?
Yes, and let's be very clear, Patrick, it's not, as I think many of your commentators have said, Iranian. It's Islamist. And when it comes to loathing the West, loathing America, loathing our way of life, then Sunni, Shia, Arab, North African, Iranian all have the same sort of ideology. And again, as your previous speakers were saying, we've been absolutely asleep at the wheel, allowing this threat to grow internally. And we're not the only ones, of course. France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, you name it, have all been absolutely derelict in their responsibility to the people of their country.
What do you make of the fact that actually it was only today in Parliament that it was confirmed that the Iranians did fire missiles at British sovereign territory, albeit, really far away? But do you have any confidence that Keir Starmer would be kind of honest with us about the threat posed by Iran, or do you think he'd attempt to downplay it and make sure we didn't find out about it?
I have very little confidence in this Prime Minister at all when it comes to matters of national security, to be honest with you, whether it's internal or external, Patrick. I'm not quite sure why he would choose not to have released this information, but it's of a type. I don't think his response to the whole significance of this, be it our allies, be it defence spending, be it honesty with the British public, has been remotely worthy of the situation we're threatened with at the moment.
And just, sorry, very, very quickly, finally for you, HMS Dragon has now arrived somewhere near Cyprus after, good grief, what is it, nearly a month, I think?
Should have been there a month ago. Patrick, many of us have said the same thing. Marvellous bit of kit, terrific men and women on board, as all our servicemen and women are. With the government saying it's not worthy of their commitment to the nation's defence.
Well, and that's what I want to ask you. One of the things that I think has been deeply and terrifyingly exposed by the ongoing situation with Iran, or whatever happens to go on here in this country now, is actually, and this is no comment on the brave and brilliant men and women who serve in our armed forces, by the way, no comment on them at all.
Right,
but is how borderline defenceless we are as a result of a lack of resources, and that I think should terrify the British public.
Yes, it should. And let's be very clear. I mean, Keir Starmer, whatever he's like as a leader, was handed a very bad set of cards by the previous government, who had 14 years and failed to reverse any of the sort of diminution of our armed forces. And as Warren Buffett once famously said, when the tide goes out, you find out who's been bathing naked. And we do need to address this. But we all know Rachel Reeves has got no handle on the on our economy. Where is the money to do it without taking hard decisions about your priorities as a government?
Quite. I mean, I can think of several different areas we could cut some spending and give it towards the military. We haven't got time to go into all of that. Thank you so much. Tremendous to talk to you. Lieutenant General Sir Simon Mail there, who's former British Army officer and Middle East advisor at the MOD. Coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Telegraph's front page is that Starmer's refusing to commit to a timeline on defence spending. We've got a lot more where that came from next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Heavy rain will continue across the Canaries over the next couple of days. Some fine weather across Spain and Portugal. Low pressure still across the Canaries, Madeira as well, seeing the risk of some rain. Sunny spells across Spain and Portugal, feeling pleasant. But low pressure also dominates parts of Italy and Greece. Outbreaks of heavy rain here on the cold side as well for the time of year. The rain across the Canaries will start to ease, particularly towards the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. We've had the last of the sunshine for many of us today. Rain and showers moving in. It will turn colder for a time too, though the dry weather does return for the weekend. Why is it changing? Well, low pressure's moving in, pushing away the high pressure we've had, bringing that nice weather, and it will introduce weather fronts from the north and west. So it will turn more unsettled across northwestern areas through this evening. A spell of wet weather, some windy weather too. Elsewhere, further south and east, it should remain relatively dry, but cloud will thicken through the night. That does mean, though, it's going to be a mild night, much milder than it has been lately. Temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees to start the day. But more in the way of rain to come on Tuesday, particularly across northwestern areas of England. Now, once that weather front pushes south through Scotland, we'll see showers push in from the west. Some of these could be quite heavy, very blustery, and they bring a risk of hail as well as hill snow. So a very different feel into tomorrow. The rain will start to intensify through Tuesday morning across western areas of northern England into Wales as well. But for many of us, it will be a dry and dull start to the day across England and Wales. You can see that rain starting to intensify across Northern Ireland, northwestern England, as well as North Wales through Tuesday lunchtime. Here it will linger through much of the day, bringing a risk of some localised flooding issues. Further rain to come across parts of Scotland too. It should remain dry across the far south and east, but a breezier and cooler day to come here with less in the way of sunshine. And then that more unsettled, colder weather will be more widely felt into Wednesday. For many of us, we could see snow flurries across the high ground. Some brisk northerly winds will bring a very different feel to the weather. It's going to feel very chilly for Wednesday into Thursday. However, as I mentioned, it does look like the drier weather and slightly warmer weather will return by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. Let's get you the first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Daily Telegraph. Trump says that he'll run the Strait of Hormuz with the Ayatollah, but just to localise it to us here in Britain, Starmer refuses to commit to a timeline on defence spending pledge, which is really remarkable when you consider everything going on, not just in the world, but literally right here at home. The Independent. They've got the big picture there of those burnt-out ambulances, counter-terror police probe, abhorrent anti-Semitic attack. A lot of questions here, really, to be answered, I think, about how we haven't caught these people yet. It's fast approaching 24 hours since this attack. The Metro, ambulance torched by bigots, saved my baby's life. And this is a family whose baby was saved by the Jewish charity, targeted by the arsonists who destroyed 4 ambulances, has called the attack abhorrent. So there you go, just shows you the work those ambulances do. The Daily Express. We must work to eliminate this ancient scourge. Ministers are urged to stamp out anti-Semitism. And just finally, for this round of papers, The Mirror. Trump claims he's held peace talks with Tehran. Iranians say it didn't happen. Starmer warns the war could go on for some time. I want to remind you a bit of that breaking news that we had at the top of the hour, actually, which is that Samart Rowley, who is the head of the Met Police, has come out and said that there's going to be increased police presence, firearms presence, drones presence, and police patrols and regular communication with Jewish community leaders in response to this attack. And you look at the state of that, really, and you think, OK, fine, but additional highly visible firearms patrols. These officers will be visible and serve as protective deterrents to those who wish to do the community's harm. 264 officers more patrolling Jewish areas. Look, Jake, I'll start this round with you. Concerned this evening. We're nearly 24 hours on here, but we've not got the people responsible for this.
No, and, I think we should all wish the counter-terrorism officers luck who are dealing with this. This will be a huge police operation, and correctly so. I would have thought that they're in a position where annual leave will have been cancelled, officers will be being surged onto the streets, inquiries will be made across London. But if this is a potentially highly sophisticated state-backed attack by an Iranian sleeper cell here in the UK, obviously that's not confirmed, but there's suggestions of that certainly in tonight's headlines, then these people will be really good at covering their tracks. So it may not be as easy It's not like going and feeling the collar of some sort of small-time crook. These may be highly sophisticated, well-trained Iranian activists who the police and the counter-terrorism cops are going to have to work really hard to catch, but I'm sure they will catch them.
I just think it's so terrifying for everyone, really, especially the Jewish community, obviously. But you think about how lucky our security services have to get every single day. They do a lot of hard work, but also how lucky they have to get every single day.
And how busy they are anyway, because there are threats everywhere. They're monitoring tens of thousands of people in this country all of the time, and this is just something else. But I'm unlike Jake. I'm not confident they'll be found, because I think they will be highly skilled people. I think it is a sleeper cell. These people will have planned some sort of attack for a long time. And look at them, you see them, unless there is specific intelligence about them, they're three hooded guys in a street that no one will be able to identify. And I think it's going to be an impossible task.
The thing that stood out for me more, actually, than the firearms patrol, the fact that we're now going to have more visible armed police around to counter this threat, is the fact that they are specifically going to be ramping up more security at Jewish schools. And that shows you the level of depraved lunatic that we are dealing with here, where they will look, and that will be coming from intelligence, where they are worried about people, Islamists, killing Jewish children in this country, in Britain. It doesn't get any worse than that.
It's shocking and it's appalling, but it's not in a vacuum. I mean, the government gives £72 million a year to the Jewish Community Safety Trust to provide support for the Jewish community, and it's absolutely right that happens.
What does that mean, Bill? I don't know. How does that manifest itself, support for the community?
Guards outside schools, patrols, to actually reinforce the confidence and the safety of the Jewish community.
But should it be up to the community to protect itself, or should it be up to the government to protect them?
The government gives £72 million
but it means
of taxpayers' money.
They've got to organise themselves to do it. How the hell do you do that when you're not schooled in that?
It's additional to the police, and the Jewish community for donkey's years have wanted that extra protection and security, and I think it's right that we give them that. But in terms of your point, Patrick, it is only a matter of hours since this happened. I'm reasonably confident that they will be apprehended over the next couple of days. And, you quoted earlier the 20 Iranian attacks, all of them thwarted, and 99% of the time, due to the incredible hard work and diligence of our intelligence and security forces, we catch them. The worry is about that 1% of times when they don't.
But doesn't this sort of make a bit of a mockery from Starmer, though, effectively brandishing this or branding this as Trump's war and not being Britain's war? We've had rocket allegedly fired at Diego Garcia. We've had attack on British soil, albeit a UK sovereign base in Cyprus. And now we have horrific attacks coming to the streets of Britain. Surely this is why the Prime Minister would have been right to support President Trump in his ambition to oppose this appalling regime. Do you feel comfortable with us just sat on the sidelines as some sort of spectator when we have people attacking us here in the UK?
Well, is that the Reform position, Jake? Because you've yo-yoed on this so much since this conflict first started. First of all, gung-ho, let's get behind the Americans. Now Reform is saying they don't support offensive action, Britain supporting offensive action, and they don't support boots on the ground. You need consistency. And look, we've got challenges within society due to Iranian-inspired terrorism. I tell you what, it's going to be an awful lot worse because of what's happened in the Middle East and because of what Trump has done.
But as Starmer keeps on saying, this is not our war. What's going to happen if we do get a direct hit on this country? What happens if they... Because all Trump will say then, well, that yours isn't my war.
Carol, if you looked at the opinion polls, 60% of people do not believe that Britain should support the US in this war.
Not yet, but obviously, we hope something does happen, obviously. But, I mean, if something does, I imagine that number would change. But, look, coming up, breaking news for you. It's on the front of tomorrow's Times newspaper. The France Migrant Agreement is being held up by Shabana Mahmood's tougher terms. So I'm going to get you the exact detail on this. We are currently apparently negotiating with exactly how much money we're about to give the French. Wouldn't be surprised if we ended up just giving them Dover. That's next.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's pothole problem is spiralling. According to car repair company QuickFit, damage caused by potholes has cost drivers a staggering £1.7 billion. And here in Wales, many drivers say the situation is becoming a nightmare. The Welsh Government says it's repaired 171,000 potholes across the country so far. But here in the city of Newport, some locals are not convinced.
We have some really giant potholes in Newport, and I'm really concerned we could end up with some fatalities at night with people riding on motorbikes and cycles. So it's a real big issue for the people in Newport, and it's in a really bad state.
And it's not just city streets feeling the strain. In rural areas, residents often have no alternative routes, meaning potholes are almost impossible to avoid. Nigel Hallett is the chair of Micleston and Vedu Community Council and says rural communities face a different set of challenges. Newport Council says it's paid out nearly £25,000 in compensation, but some residents say their claims are still being refused, including one woman whose husband was left with a £350 repair bill.
We tried to claim with the council. Initially, one letter went off, standard letter return to say, no, you didn't tell us that the fault was there before you hit it. So we can't pay any claims out, so he's just back and forth constantly now.
The council says it understands residents' frustrations and has made road maintenance a major priority in its budget. Alongside a £6.6 million resurfacing programme already underway, it says more than £20 million is being invested in Newport's roads between 2025 and 27.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's give you the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages then. The I-Paper, UK investigates possible Iran link to arson attacks on Jewish ambulances. The Daily Mail goes for Trump blinks first. This is in response to his comments about the Iran war. The Sun, Barmy Beeb bans Bob. And this is an episode of BBC's Repair Shop was pulled after a TV production worker got offended by a sexist Bob Monkhouse gag. So there we go, more work for the incoming Director General to do. The Guardian, Trump stalls strikes amid claims of productive talks with Tehran. And The Times, their headline is Trump, I'd bet on a deal with Iran. But there's another story at the top of The Times here, which is France Migrant agreement held up by Mahmoud's tougher terms. Now, my understanding of this, Jake, is that Shabana Mahmoud, the Home Secretary, wanted to basically pay the French based on results.
I don't normally say this, but Shabana Mahmoud is doing exactly the right thing.
Yes.
So we are due to give the French government another 500 million quid, give or take 475 million, for them to intervene and arrest people on the beaches in France to stop them coming in the UK. Now, Shabana Mahmoud has quite sensibly said, look, what we'll do is we'll give you some of the money, but we'll only pay you the rest when you start stopping people coming into this country. And this is because since this deal came in place, we've already paid them 500 million. The number of people the French officers have been stopping crossing to the UK has actually fallen since the deal has come. So more people are coming over. So she is doing the right thing. Sorry to say, I think the French are going to win this one. We're going to end up giving them money. And no matter what Shabana may have to say, we're going to end up with these people coming in.
Well, the French appear to be saying no, don't they, Bill?
Well, look, every negotiation like this with the French always goes down to the wire, and I think the deadline for this is next Monday. Let's see what happens. I think Shabana Mahmood is pursuing the right strategy, payment by results, and she's playing hardball. But ultimately, we need a deal with the French, because the figure I saw this morning is that although, in my view, the French are not intervening as much as I would like and the government would like, were it not for what they're currently doing, the number of boat crossings would have been about a third higher than it has actually been. So we need the French to work with us.
Yeah, well, then we'd have to start deporting people back to Afghanistan, Syria, Eritrea and goodness knows elsewhere, which apparently we're not allowed to do. But do you think that they will end up just paying the French regardless?
Of course, we've got no choice. No matter what we say, no matter how hard she is, no matter whether it goes to the wire, the bottom line is we need them to do the paltry little bit that we're doing, or the situation where people...
Well, the challenge is why she won't win.
Third higher.
Well, why she won't win is because even though she's talking to us, she hasn't ultimately got the guts to say we won't give you the money. Yeah. Let's look at the one-in, one-out deal. We've had 20,100 people come to the UK. Yeah. We've sent 300 back. Yeah. That's 64 in, one out. Okay. We're not tough enough.
All right, well, look, we've obviously got the next hour to get stuck right into these front pages, but I wanted to bring you a little bit of light relief. So a whale behaviour, once thought to be a myth, has finally been caught on camera. For the first time ever, researchers from the University of St Andrews have filmed sperm whales headbutting each other using drone footage. The discovery mirrors the real-life attack that inspired the novel Moby Dick, in which a whale sank a ship by headbutting it. The findings, published in the journal Marine Mammal Science, also revealed how younger whales engage in headbutting rather than between larger males, as thought previously. Scientists say the footage could change what we know about whale behaviour and reveal more secrets hidden beneath the ocean's surface. So there you go. It's not just football fans on a Saturday afternoon.
It's like a Celtic and Rangers match, isn't it?
It's not just the Old Firm derby. It's actually, we've learnt that from our whale friends.
But why are they doing that to each other?
They just don't like each other very much. He said something really nasty about his missus.
We haven't learned very much, have we, if we don't know why they're doing it?
Well, they might. I mean, you
Patrick's going to cover this in detail in the next hour. He's going to tell us why.
For the latest. Yes, stay tuned for more detail on this. But to be honest with you, I just did that story so I could play the video of the whales nutting each other, which I've achieved. So there we go. Right, look, thank you very much. Loads on the front page. Starmer not saying when he's going to increase our defence budget. Shabana Mahmood talking tough with the French. And, of course, the very latest on that manhunt for the arsonists. All of that and more.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. We've had the last of the sunshine for many of us today. Rain and showers moving in. It will turn colder for a time too, though the dry weather does return for the weekend. Why is it changing? Well, low pressure's moving in, pushing away the high pressure we've had, bringing that nice weather, and it will introduce weather fronts from the north and west. So it will turn more unsettled across northwestern areas through this evening. A spell of wet weather, some windy weather too. Elsewhere, further south and east, it should remain relatively dry, but cloud will thicken through the night. That does mean, though, it's going to be a mild night, much milder than it has been lately. Temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees to start the day. But more in the way of rain to come on Tuesday, particularly across northwestern areas of England. Now, once that weather front pushes south through Scotland, we'll see showers push in from the west. Some of these could be quite heavy, very blustery, and they bring a risk of hail as well as hill snow. So a very different feel into tomorrow. The rain will start to intensify through Tuesday morning across western areas of northern England into Wales as well. But for many of us, it will be a dry and dull start to the day across England and Wales. You can see that rain starting to intensify across Northern Ireland, northwestern England, as well as North Wales through Tuesday lunchtime. Here it will linger through much of the day, bringing a risk of some localised flooding issues. Further rain to come across parts of Scotland too. It should remain dry across the far south and east, but a breezier and cooler day to come here with less in the way of sunshine. And then that more unsettled, colder weather will be more widely felt into Wednesday. For many of us, we could see snow flurries across the high ground. Some brisk northerly winds will bring a very different feel to the weather. It's going to feel very chilly for Wednesday into Thursday. However, as I mentioned, it does look like the drier weather and slightly warmer weather will return by the weekend. Bye-bye.
Warm and cosy, chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, the front pages are all talking about whether or not Iran has now attacked Britain. We've got increased firearm patrols outside places, including Jewish schools, which tells you everything you need to know about what a vibrant multicultural success story Britain really is. We're also going to be talking about Keir Starmer refusing to put a timeline on when he's going to increase the defence budget. Given the fact that it's just taken us a month to get a warship to Cyprus, I really think we could do with getting a crack on there. Also, Shabana Mahmood wants the French to only get money to stop the boats if they produce the goods. The French are saying no.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van, courtesy of Marquis Leisure.